What happens when one of Hollywood's most powerful men walks onto a daytime stage known for sharp opinions, unfiltered questions, and decades of unresolved tension, and realizes, too late, that this won't be a friendly interview, but a reckoning? What happens when smiles crack under studio lights, when applause turns uncertain, and when a single question shifts the temperature of an entire room? Before we go any further, if you love explosive celebrity moments told like cinematic stories, make sure you subscribe to Stage View right now, hit that like button, and drop a comment as this story unfolds. Because what you're about to hear is one of the most intense, whispered about confrontations daytime television has ever seen. The applause hit first. Loud, polished, rehearsed. The kind of applause that fills space before anyone has time to think. Dwayne Johnson stepped out onto the familiar set of The View, his presence instantly commanding the room. He smiled wide, that practiced, charismatic grin that had sold movies, franchises, and entire ideologies of strength and positivity. His shoulders were squared, posture relaxed, as if this were just another stop on a promotional tour. Another couch, another conversation, another round of laughter. But beneath the surface, something was already off. Whoopi Goldberg sat at the center of the table, hands folded, eyes forward. She didn't rise immediately. She didn't rush to greet him. The audience noticed it before the cameras did. There was a half-second delay, so small it could be dismissed, but heavy enough to be felt. When Whoopi finally stood, her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Dwayne Johnson, everyone," she said, her voice calm, measured, almost too controlled. The Rock nodded, shook hands with the other hosts, exchanging quick greetings, light jokes. "Good to be here," he said, his voice warm, steady. But as he turned toward Whoopi, their eyes locked for just a beat longer than necessary. Something unspoken passed between them. A flicker. A recognition. He sat down. The couch felt smaller than it looked on camera. From the control room, producers leaned forward. They'd prepped the segment like any other. Talk about his latest project, his inspirational journey, maybe a few personal anecdotes. But there had been whispers all morning. A question added late. A note passed between producers. A quiet disagreement over what was too far and what was necessary. Whoopi adjusted her glasses. The audience quieted. That soft hum of anticipation filled the studio, the kind that comes right before something unpredictable. "So, Dwayne," she began, her tone conversational, almost friendly. "You've built an incredible career. Movies, business, philanthropy. People see you as the symbol of positivity." He nodded. "I try to be," he said. "I really do. And yet," Whoopi continued, pausing just long enough for the word to land, "there are moments when people feel that positivity disappears when it's inconvenient." The smile on his face didn't fade, but it tightened. "I'm not sure what you mean," he replied lightly. Whoopi leaned back slightly. "I think you do." A ripple went through the audience. A few nervous laughs. One woman in the front row glanced sideways at her friend, eyebrows raised. Joy Behar shifted in her seat. "Whoopi." But Whoopi lifted a hand, not breaking eye contact with Dwayne. "No, let's talk about it." The cameras moved in closer. This wasn't in the rundown. "Over the years," Whoopi said, "you've spoken about standing up for people, about integrity, about knowing who you are. And yet, there are times when you've stayed very quiet, when people expected your voice." Dwayne inhaled slowly. Inside, a familiar instinct kicked in, the one that had carried him through wrestling promos, press junkets, political questions. "Stay calm. Stay respectful. Stay likable. I think silence doesn't always mean absence," he said carefully. "Sometimes it means listening." Whoopi nodded once. "That's a good line. Sounds rehearsed." The audience gasped. This time, no laughter followed. Dwayne chuckled softly, trying to defuse it. "Well, I've done a lot of interviews. But this isn't one of those," Whoopi said. Her voice wasn't raised. That was what made it dangerous. "This is a conversation." For a moment, the studio felt suspended. Even the lights seemed harsher. "You've become a brand," she continued. "And brands are careful. Brands don't like to take risks. But people do. And people look at you and wonder, are you a person or are you a product?" The Rock's jaw tightened. He shifted slightly on the couch. "I'm a human being," he said. "I make choices like anyone else." "Then let's talk about one of those choices," Whoopi said. A producer's voice crackled faintly in an earpiece somewhere off camera. Someone whispered, "We're going off script." Whoopi leaned forward now, elbows on the table. "There was a moment," she said, "when voices were being silenced, when people in your own industry were being called out, and you said nothing. People felt abandoned. Dwayne's smile was gone now, replaced by something more guarded, more real. With respect, he said, I don't know the public commentary on every issue. Whoopi's eyes sharpened. No, but when you profit from being a moral compass, people expect you to point north. The applause that followed was scattered, hesitant. Some clapped. Others stayed silent. Dwayne exhaled through his nose. I've spent my life working, he said. I came from nothing. I've earned where I am. And no one's taking that away from you, Whoopi replied quickly. But earning success doesn't exempt you from accountability. The temperature in the room climbed. Sonny Hostin leaned in. Dwayne, I think what Whoopi's asking. He held up a hand, not aggressively but firmly. I'd like to respond. The audience leaned forward as one. I don't run from hard conversations, he said. But I won't be painted as someone who doesn't care because I choose my battles carefully. Whoopi nodded slowly. That's interesting, because from where some people sit, it looks less like choosing battles and more like choosing safety. That landed hard. For a split second, Dwayne Johnson, the unshakable, unstoppable rock, looked genuinely wounded. You don't know what I do behind the scenes, he said, his voice lower now. You don't know the conversations I have. The people I help quietly. Whoopi didn't flinch. Then maybe it's time people stopped seeing you as a superhero and started seeing you as a man who can make mistakes. A hush fell over the room. The audience wasn't sure whether to clap or hold its breath. Dwayne sat back, eyes drifting away from the table, as if searching for the right words somewhere beyond the studio walls. When he looked back, the charm was gone. What remained was something raw. I've taken hits my whole life, he said. I can take another one. But I won't apologize for trying to do good in my own way. Whoopi studied him. Not with anger. With disappointment. That, she said quietly, is where we disagree. The silence stretched. Seconds felt like minutes. From home, viewers would later say they felt it. That uncomfortable electric pause where something breaks and everyone knows it. And as the cameras stayed rolling, as the hosts shifted uneasily in their seats, it became clear that this was no longer an interview. This was the beginning of a confrontation that neither of them could walk away from. The silence didn't end when the cameras cut to commercial. If anything, it thickened. During the break, no one stood up. No one laughed it off. The audience, trained to relax when the red light goes dark, stayed frozen in their seats, eyes darting between the table and the couch. This wasn't a normal pause. This was the kind of moment people would later describe with phrases like, "You could feel it," or "something shifted in the room." Dwayne Johnson rolled his shoulders back slowly, a reflex more than a decision. Years of wrestling had trained his body to stay loose under pressure, but this wasn't a ring. There was no bell, no clear opponent, no script to follow. He glanced toward the stage floor, then back at the table. Whoopi didn't look at him. She sipped from her mug, her face unreadable. A producer hurried in, whispering urgently to the hosts. "We're tight on time," they said. "We need to steer it back." Whoopi nodded once, but didn't answer. Dwayne leaned forward slightly. "Look," he said quietly, not into a microphone now, but into the open space between them. "I respect you." Whoopi finally turned her head. Respect isn't the issue. The producer opened their mouth to speak again, then thought better of it and stepped back as the countdown began. 5, 4, 3. The red light blinked on. "And we're back," Joy said, her voice brighter than the room felt. "We're talking with Dwayne Johnson." Whoopi cut in. "Before we move on, I want to finish this." A murmur rippled through the audience. Somewhere backstage, someone swore under their breath. Dwayne straightened. "Okay." Whoopi clasped her hands together, resting them on the table. "You said you don't know the public commentary on every issue. Fair enough. But you've also positioned yourself as someone people look to in moments of uncertainty." He nodded. "I understand that." "Do you?" she asked. "Because leadership isn't just about when it's comfortable. It's about when it costs you something." Dwayne felt a familiar heat rise in his chest. Not anger, something more complicated. Frustration mixed with a strange sense of exposure. Millions of people had opinions about him, but few had ever said them to his face like this. "I've lost opportunities because of my choices," he said. "I've turned things down. I've spoken up in rooms where it mattered." "Rooms people never see," Whoopi replied. "That doesn't make them less real," he shot back. The audience reacted this time, an audible "oh" slicing through the air. Sonny leaned in again. "Dwayne, can I ask you something directly?" He nodded. "Please." "Do you worry," she said carefully, that your silence in public moments gives cover to people who don't have good intentions. He paused. The question landed differently. It wasn't accusatory, it was surgical. I worry about a lot of things, he said. I worry about being misinterpreted. I worry about saying the wrong thing and making things worse. Whoopi's gaze softened just a fraction. So fear plays a role. Dwayne exhaled. I'm human. Yes. That admission hung in the air. For a moment, it seemed like the tension might finally ease. Like the conversation might turn inward, reflective. The audience leaned back slightly, hopeful. But Whoopi wasn't done. There's something else, she said. Dwayne felt it before she spoke the words. That subtle shift in her tone. The sense that this was the real reason she hadn't smiled when he walked out. You come from wrestling, she said. A world built on characters. Heroes. Villains. Storylines designed to make people feel something. He nodded slowly. That's true. And you were very good at it. A faint smile tugged at his lips. Thank you. But sometimes, she continued, I wonder if the world still sees a character instead of a man. And whether that's because you've kept it that way. The smile vanished. What are you saying? He asked. I'm saying, Whoopi replied, that authenticity isn't just about what you do. It's about what you're willing to risk. Dwayne's hands tightened together, fingers interlacing. He could feel the eyes on him, from the hosts, the audience, the cameras, the millions watching at home. I've risked plenty, he said. You don't get where I am by playing it safe. Whoopi raised an eyebrow. Do you really believe that? The audience murmured again. This time, the divide was audible. Some nodded. Others shook their heads. Joy tried to lighten the moment. I think what people love about you, Dwayne, is that you make them feel safe. Whoopi interrupted. Joy blinked. Well, hopeful. Hope is important, Whoopi said. But hope without truth is just a performance. That word hit him like a slap. Performance, he repeated. Yes, she said. And I think you know exactly what I mean. The studio felt smaller now. The walls closer. The lights hotter. Dwayne leaned forward, elbows on his knees, posture no longer relaxed. You think everything I do is an act. I think, Whoopi said carefully, that you've been very good at controlling the narrative. The audience reacted sharply, half applause, half stunned silence. He shook his head. That's not fair. Isn't it? She asked. You choose when to speak, when to stay quiet, when to inspire, when to disappear. That's power. And you don't, he countered, his voice rising despite himself. You sit here every day shaping opinions. Whoopi's eyes flashed. I've never pretended otherwise. The room went still. Dwayne realized in that moment that this wasn't about one issue, or one moment of silence. This was about something older, something deeper. You don't trust me, he said quietly. Whoopi didn't answer right away. I want to, she said finally. But trust is built on consistency. He swallowed. So what do you want from me? A confession? An apology? I want honesty, she said. Not the polished version. Not the brand. The man. For the first time since he walked out, Dwayne looked genuinely unsure. The audience watched him closely now. This wasn't The Rock. This was Dwayne Johnson, stripped of catchphrases and camera-ready charm. I don't have a perfect answer, he admitted. I never claimed to. But you sell certainty, Whoopi replied. He opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. Somewhere deep inside, he felt a crack form. Not visible yet, but spreading. I sell belief, he said finally. Belief that people can overcome. Even when they're wrong, she asked. The question echoed. Dwayne leaned back, eyes drifting upward toward the studio lights. For a moment, he seemed far away, back in locker rooms, boardrooms, private conversations no one would ever hear about. I've been wrong, he said softly. More times than people know. Whoopi nodded slowly. Then say that. I just did. No, she replied. You hinted at it. The audience leaned in again. Phones were already out, fingers hovering, ready to clip, to post, to share. Dwayne looked back at her. What if I say it wrong? Then you learn, Whoopi said. Like the rest of us. Another pause. Longer this time. He felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The instinct to deflect. To joke. To pivot. To protect. And then, for the first time, he didn't. I've made mistakes, he said clearly now. I've chosen silence when maybe I shouldn't have. I thought I was protecting something, but maybe I was just protecting myself. The audience erupted, not in wild applause, but in something more complex. Respect. Surprise. Uncertainty. Whoopi watched him closely, searching for something in his eyes. "And," she prompted. "And I don't know yet what that means," he admitted. "But I'm listening." The room exhaled. But even as the tension eased, everyone could sense it. This wasn't resolution. This was only the midpoint. Because when you pull at a thread this tightly, something is bound to unravel. The applause faded, but the unease didn't. If anything, it sharpened. Dwayne's admission hung in the air like a fragile glass ornament. Beautiful, dangerous, one wrong move away from shattering. The audience sat frozen, unsure whether they had just witnessed a breakthrough or the calm before something far more volatile. Whoopi didn't smile. She didn't nod in approval. She studied him, as if weighing whether his words were enough, or merely the beginning of something overdue. "You say you're listening," she said at last. "So listen to this." The shift was immediate. Even the cameras seemed to adjust, pulling tighter, sensing instinctively that this was the moment everything tipped. "There's a difference," Whoopi continued, "between growth and damage control." Dwayne's brow furrowed. "That's not what this is." "Isn't it?" she asked quietly. "Because timing matters. And accountability that only comes when the pressure is on doesn't always feel sincere." A low murmur rolled through the crowd. Someone in the back shook their head. Another person whispered, "She's not letting up." Dwayne felt something inside him harden, not defensiveness exactly, but resolve. He'd opened the door. He hadn't expected to be pushed through it. "I didn't come here to repair an image," he said. "I came here to talk." "Then talk," Whoopi replied. "But don't expect applause for doing the bare minimum." That did it. The audience reacted audibly now. Some clapping, others gasping, a few uncomfortable laughs that died almost immediately. Dwayne sat forward again, elbows on his knees, his voice dropping into something steadier, firmer. "You're right," he said. "I don't deserve applause for honesty. But I also won't accept being framed as someone who only speaks when it benefits him." "Then explain the pattern." Whoopi shot back. The word pattern landed hard. Joy shifted in her seat. "Okay, let's just." "No," Whoopi said, without raising her voice. "This is important." Sunny nodded slowly, her expression conflicted. "People at home are listening." Dwayne took a breath. He could feel the sweat under the lights now, the unfamiliar vulnerability of not knowing how this would be edited, clipped, remembered. "The pattern," he said, choosing each word carefully, "is that I've tried to navigate a world where every statement becomes a weapon, where nuance is flattened, where intent is ignored. And yet," Whoopi countered, "you've thrived in that world." "Because I work hard," he snapped, then caught himself. The edge in his voice sent a jolt through the studio. Whoopi's eyes narrowed. "So does everyone who gets hurt by silence." That line cut deeper than any accusation so far. The audience went quiet again, as if collectively holding its breath. Dwayne leaned back, running a hand over his face. When he spoke again, his voice was rougher, less polished. "You think this is easy for me?" he asked. "You think I don't feel the weight of expectations every day? I'm not just a guy with opinions. I'm a symbol people project onto. And symbols have responsibility," Whoopi replied immediately. "I never asked to be one," he said. "But you accepted it," she said. "Every movie, every speech, every carefully chosen silence." The tension crackled now, no longer contained. It was spilling out, reaching the audience, vibrating through the studio. Dwayne turned slightly, addressing the crowd for the first time. "Do you know what it's like," he asked, "to say something with good intentions and watch it be twisted into something ugly?" A few people nodded. Someone clapped once, quickly. Whoopi watched him, arms crossed now. "Yes," she said. "I do. And I still speak." That landed like a challenge. Dwayne looked back at her. "Because you've accepted the cost." "Yes," she said. "Have you?" The question wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. For a long moment, Dwayne didn't answer. The cameras lingered on his face, every microexpression visible. The tightening jaw, the flicker of frustration, the dawning realization that this wasn't about winning an argument. This was about legacy. "I don't know," he said finally. The honesty surprised even him. The audience reacted, not with applause this time, but with something heavier. Recognition. Whoopi's posture softened, just slightly. "That," she said, "is the most real thing you've said today." Dwayne gave a humorless laugh. "Feels dangerous." "It is," she replied. "Truth usually is." Another pause. This one felt different. Less hostile. More fragile. Then Sunny broke the silence. "Dwayne, do you think your fans know this side of you?" He considered it. "Probably not." "Do you think they should?" she asked. He hesitated. I think they deserve to. Whoopi nodded. Then stop protecting the myth. The words echoed. Dwayne looked down at his hands. Hands that had been raised in victory, clenched in triumph, extended in generosity. Hands that now rested still, uncertain. I built that myth to survive, he said quietly. To escape where I came from. And now? Whoopi asked. And now, he said, lifting his gaze. It might be holding me back. The audience reacted again, this time sustained applause. Not thunderous. Thoughtful. But even as the clapping continued, a new tension crept in. Because admissions invite follow-up. Joy leaned forward. So what does accountability look like for you, right now? Dwayne opened his mouth, then stopped. The question loomed larger than the studio. Larger than the show. I don't have a perfect answer, he said. But it starts with not hiding. And staying in the room, Whoopi added. He met her eyes. Even when it's uncomfortable. She held his gaze. Especially then. The red light blinked again, another commercial break approaching. But this time no one cared. Because whatever happened next wouldn't be contained by a broadcast window. This was bigger now. As the countdown began and the cameras pulled back, one thing was clear to everyone watching, in the studio and at home. The confrontation hadn't exploded. It had evolved. And the final impact was still coming. The red light clicked off for the final time, but no one moved. For a heartbeat, the studio existed in a strange in-between state. No longer live television, not yet private reality. The audience sat frozen, applause dying on their hands. The hosts remained at the table, microphones still warm, breaths still heavy. Dwayne Johnson stayed seated on the couch, shoulders rising and falling, as if he'd just gone 10 rounds in a fight no one had trained him for. Whoopi broke the silence first. Thank you for staying in it, she said, not softly, not warmly, but honestly. Dwayne nodded once. I didn't realize how easy it is to leave, he replied. That line wouldn't make it to air. But it would matter more than anything that did. A producer stepped forward, voice cautious. We're clear. Thank you, everyone. The spell lifted all at once. The audience erupted, not in the polished applause of television, but in something raw and unscripted. Some stood. Some clapped hesitantly. Others remained seated, visibly shaken. A few wiped at their eyes. They weren't cheering a celebrity. They were processing a moment. Dwayne rose from the couch. For the first time that day, he didn't look larger than life. He looked tired, grounded, real. As he turned to leave, Whoopi stood too. Dwayne, she said. He stopped. She extended her hand. He took it. The shake was brief but firm. This doesn't end here, she told him. I know, he said. It can't. Cameras backstage were already rolling. Phones lifted by crew members, whispers bouncing off the walls. Did you hear that? Is this going to air? Social media's already on fire. By the time Dwayne reached his dressing room, the first clips were circulating online. Not the explosive moments people usually waited for, but the pauses, the admissions, the cracks in the armor. A shaky clip of him saying, I've chosen silence when maybe I shouldn't have. Another of Whoopi's voice, calm and cutting. Hope without truth is just a performance. Within minutes, hashtags began climbing. His name, her name, The View, accountability, authenticity. The internet did what it always does, picked sides. Some called Whoopi fearless. Others called her unfair. Some praised Dwayne for staying, for not walking out, for not turning it into a joke. Others accused him of being too late, too careful, too rehearsed. But almost everyone agreed on one thing. This didn't feel fake. Media outlets scrambled to reframe the moment. Headlines rolled out fast, each trying to claim the narrative. A tense daytime showdown leaves viewers stunned. Dwayne Johnson faces hard questions and doesn't run. Whoopi Goldberg forces an unscripted reckoning on live TV. But the most shared posts weren't headlines. They were reactions. A woman filming her TV screen saying, I've never seen him like this before. A former fan tweeting, I'm angry, but I'm listening. A longtime supporter writing, this is the first time he's felt human to me. Late that night, Dwayne sat alone in his hotel room, phone face down on the table. He hadn't checked it in hours. He didn't need to. He already knew. For years, he'd controlled momentum, what came next, what people saw, how the story moved forward. Now the story was moving without him. He replayed the moment in his head, not the sharpest line, not the applause, but the question that had stayed with him. Have you accepted the cost? Across the city, Whoopi watched the same clips on mute. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She knew something most viewers didn't. Confrontation wasn't about humiliation. It was about disruption. And disruption always has an echo. The next morning, daytime TV opened with debates. Late-night hosts referenced it with cautious humor. Podcasts dissected every pause, every breath, every look. Was it planned? Was it fair? Was it overdue? But beneath all of it was something rarer than scandal. A conversation that didn't resolve neatly. Dwayne didn't release a statement right away. No notes app apology. No carefully filtered post. That silence, this time, felt different. 3 days later, he posted a single sentence. Still listening. No explanation. No hashtags. The response was immediate and divided. But it was real. And that, more than anything, was the aftermath no one could edit. Because moments like this don't end when the camera's cut. They linger. They challenge. They force people, celebrities and viewers alike, to ask uncomfortable questions about who we believe, why we believe them, and what we expect from those we put on a pedestal. So now the story passes to you. What do you think? Was this a long overdue reckoning or an unfair ambush? Did Dwayne Johnson show growth? Or did he reveal hesitation too late? Was Whoopi holding him accountable or crossing a line? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear every perspective. And if you want more explosive, cinematic, emotionally charged stories like this one, make sure you subscribe to Stage View right now. Like this video, share it with someone who loves real, unfiltered moments, and stay with us, because the next story is already waiting in the shadows.